Hello, friends. I have a filter on. Let's see. Let's get rid of that. Hey, friends. Welcome. It's Wednesday, and it's Ask a Flower Farmer. It is your friend in flowers, Lisa Mason Ziegler, and I'm trying to get myself situated here, friends. So we have been sorting and working on our dried flower stock this morning. I'm standing in front of what is one of our walls of dried flowers, and anyway, January is usually the month that we kind of start showing them off, and Susie Q and I have been busy at it this morning. So if this is your first time joining me here, this is Ask a Flower Farmer, and what that means is if you have a question you'd like to ask about seed starting, growing cut flowers, flower farming business, cool flowers, anything related to it, you can post them in the bubble down below. And then I will do my best to answer those for you. You know, today, yesterday and I think today, we are like almost, what is it, Bobo, 60 outside?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It is just beautiful, beautiful weather. And in normal Virginia fashion, you know, we'll be back down in the low 20s in just a few days. And that's kind of the crazy behavior that tortures cool flowers a little bit, right? So while I had covers up, Bobo uncovered everything this morning, just took them down. They're still out there and installed. And Saturday afternoon, I'll put the covers back up just to not be tortured with this 66 degrees during the day and 20 degrees at night, right? It just kind of buffers all of that. So Cool Flowers looks pretty awesome. Bobo actually planted some of our cool flowers this morning. We had restarted some. We call them our insurance transplants. Those are transplants that may or may not actually get planted. It's like you're not sure what you planted is going to turn out, or something happened to them, or you didn't have good germination, or something like that, right? And so Bobo plugged in, got busy planting our snaps, which are really late this year. That's a whole nother rabbit hole story we could go down, right? And so, friends, it doesn't always go as planned for all of us, even those of us that really are supposed to know what we're doing, but it doesn't always go that way, right? So I just want to say, if you're nervous or worried, because we get so many messages from people. Literally, I got one last week, I think, from one of my students that said, I am so afraid to plant cool flowers. I mean, you know, you spend a lot of blood, sweat, and tears getting those seeds to sprout and germinate. Then you grow them up, right? Then you are going to plant them outside with winter around the corner, or maybe winter is, you know, going to be coming along anytime. And it's frightening, and it's hard to consider. Like, you feel like you're throwing your plants to the wolves, right? So if you're just joining us, if you have questions about cool flowers, flower farming, growing cut flowers, or just gardening, post them in the bubble down below. That way I don't lose your question in all the comments here. That's the reason that we do it that way. So this week on the farm, on the farm, I'm starting seeds today. Bobo's actually making blocks for me right now, because she's going to sow some seeds, and then I'm going to also sow more seeds on the sewing circle. If you happen to be a member of my membership club, the Flower Farmer Club is actually what it's called, then you know that we meet at 2 o'clock on Wednesdays, and I sow seeds or do something similar. Well, today I am sowing atroplex. It's been primed, so don't forget to meet me there, and Bobo's making the blocks. But on the show this Friday, the live shopping show, what are you looking for, Bobo?
I was looking to see if we had any dried.
Oh, we do. It's actually right there in front of you. To your left, right, straight in front of you. Turn straight. Nope. There. I think. I can't tell. She was going to try to find some atroplex. Anyway, so atroplex is in the spinach family. and it really likes cool to cold weather. And I kind of messed up our direct seeded, and then I learned about the secret. You can listen to the Seed Talk episode with Joe Lample at about the 40-minute mark. He shares his priming secrets on getting the seed to germinate 100%, and it revolutionized my atroplex world. So we're sowing more of those today, and I'm starting them in blocks because if I can get them to germinate, I can grow them inside. I just was never able to do that. So anyway, all right, stand by, y'all. I just saw it. See, I thought that was it.
Oh, I think that stopped.
No, there it is behind you, right next to the blue cockadee. Took back.
Oh, yeah, here it is.
Sorry, y'all. You know how it is when you start looking for something. We have a sea of dried flowers all wrapped up here in sleeves. But atroplex is pretty dadgum amazing. This is it. And this is what you're looking to actually get when you grow atroplex. It is not a flower. It is the seed pods. And so this is dried, obviously. When this is green, there's green and red. When you have the green, oh my gosh, y'all, it is the most gorgeous filler. Branches beautifully. So we're starting more of the red and the green today, and it's super tall and branchy. But I will warn you that you have to keep it safe from the deer because deer love spinach. All right, so somebody just atroplex, A-T-R-E-X, T-R-E-plex, T-R-I-plex, T-R-I-P-L-E-X. All right, so let's see what your questions are here. It started snowing and uncovered the frost cloth now. It stopped snowing and the sun's out, so now they're uncovered. Do I need to go out there and recover them? Do I do this all winter long, covering and uncovering? So here's the story with frozen precipitation and lightweight row cloth, the way that we use it. Whenever any frozen precipitation, whether that's ice or snow, is forecasted, you always just take your covers down. And if you live in an area where you notoriously, like we sometimes do, will get snow, not very frequently at all, and you know that there's going to be really frigid temperatures after the snow. It is, and I've talked to people that do this. I've never done it. I know people that literally take just the covers up so they don't get frozen and wet and all stuck together. They just ball up their row covers and bring them into the building, let the snow come, and then once the snow starts to melt, because snow is more of a insulator than a row cover could ever be. So as long as you have snow on the beds, a couple inches, you're covered. You don't have to worry about using a row cover. But once that starts to melt, if it's really getting frigid cold, then there could be benefits to using row cover. All of this is prefaced with, if you're only growing the cool flowers that actually are winter hardy in your winter hardiness zone. So frequently we find out that folks kind of miss that little fact. They just plant some cool flowers in the fall, not realizing what their winter hardiness zone is, and then what the winter hardiness zone is of a particular cool flower. So some cool flowers, the rudbeckias and the sweet williams are super winter hardy. They're like up to zone 5, I think. And then there's straw flowers that are only to zone 8. So you have to know your winter hardiness zone and the winter hardiness zone of the individual plants. So yes, we spend all winter putting covers up and covers down. We do it for a different reason than you do. We do it because our winters are no longer just cold. Used to be we got cold at Thanksgiving and we stayed cold all winter. And we put them up and left them. We pretty much just abandoned the garden for a couple months, right? But that's not the case anymore. It'll heat up just like today, 66 degrees. And what you don't want to encourage your cool flowers to do is, if they are in dormancy or if they're not in dormancy yet, you don't want to encourage additional growing vegetatively. You want them to make roots. That's the point of getting them in the ground now. But for them to grow bigger and bigger and bigger on the top is kind of a bummer, because small, cool season hardy annuals face winter, again, if it's hardy in your zone, with no issue. But a plant this big is not going to be able to face winter. It's all that vegetation and wind whipping and rocking the roots and all kinds of mess, right? So take them down when frozen precipitation is coming. And if you are expecting frigid temperatures after the snow, you better gather your row covers before the snow comes, because you will not be able to then, let's just say it snows, your row covers are out in the garden and they're down. If it snows on them, you won't be able to get them back up, and trust me, you will destroy your row covers and frustrate yourself trying to get them up. And so you'll just have to kind of do that forecasting. But again, snow is a better insulator than row covers. So hope that helps. Should you have fans going when starting seeds? If so, how long should they run? So we start seeds in a 10 by 10 grow room that has absolutely no ventilation, and I have never used a fan. People often ask that, and we just don't find that to be necessary. Maybe that's conducive to our conditions that we're here, but literally, I mean, this is just a giant garage, right? That 10 by 10 room has a door and windows that don't open, or we don't open them, and we have just never used a fan. And you know, I do crazy things like, you know, to help if I have a crop. I don't usually do this until I see one set of trays maybe having a problem. What I do to strengthen stems is sometimes when I'm watering, I'll rub the top of seedlings, just kind of brushing them very lightly, and that just kind of helps to build resistance and do stems. All I think fans are good for is just really kind of like, I guess, drying stuff out. And you really shouldn't have to do that, because it's really the air temperature that should be doing that, because the air temperature not only helps the soil to dry out, it has even a more important issue. That is, it's warming up to make your plants grow vegetatively. So a fan can't fix that. So no, we don't do fans, and so I can't answer that question. But of course, maybe my situation is different than other people's. Hello, Lisa. I usually plant Lizzie in very early spring, but would like to know if fall planting of Lizzie will be beneficial as well. Texas 8B, frost date December 15th. So great question. And we actually did a experiment, Bobo and I did several years ago, where I ordered, see, the problem is with planting at both times is that we order plugs. We don't start Lysianthus from seed, right? So that means I would do a plug order in the fall, and then I'd have to do another one to come in very early spring. And we were in high production. That was an okay thing for us to do. We had enough volume that we needed, right? But as we kind of throttled back some, I had to decide to make a choice. So this one particular year, we planted in the fall. I can't remember, it was Roseanne, Green, and my standards, ABCs and Roseanne. And we planted in the fall, like a normal cool flower. Then I ordered the same exact varieties to come again for very early spring. And we actually planted them in not the same bed, but the bed right next to them, because we usually would have two beds. And what we experienced was two things, actually. First, the beds that were planted in very early spring literally were as tall as the ones that we planted in the fall, because that was my number one thing. It's like, all right, you know, we're always trying to get more stem length. Well, we get great stem length when you plant them into cool soil. Lysianthus loves you, right? So we just did not see a big benefit of over fall planting over the very early spring for that reason. A problem that we experienced with our fall planted Lysianthus is very sensitive to diseases in the soil. And wet soil, it really ramps up the presence of those types of pathogens. And because during the winter, whether you think it's wet or not, I mean, it's like once your soil gets wet in the fall, it literally rarely dries out all winter. It may look dry unless you have a really drought winter, like no rain, no snow, no ice, no nothing. That doesn't very often happen for us anyway. is we lost a lot of our fall planted Lysianthus to those diseases like Phothothera, and there's just different diseases. You would have to have yours diagnosed. And there is no, I mean, you can do things like dipping the roots in what's called root shield, which is kind of, it's not organic, but it's not a pesticide. It's actually something that coats the roots. It's a biological. Anyway, we found that we had to fight disease much, much more when we fall plant. And then the fall planted really didn't outperform. So there was really no reason to do it. So the full circle to that is we only plant in very early spring now. And, we do our best to buy from the different groups of Lysianthus. And that way you're not going to extend your blooms for a really long time. But what is it?
That's the root shield.
Yeah, so root shield is a biological fungicide is what it is. It's expensive, but if you just save 20 plants, you pay for it. And it does have expiration date on there, so ours expired this year. So that means that we probably will have to buy more for our very early, because I dip them in it. And we have really good results with that. But we grow so little Lysianthus now, it's just not that much of a threat for us. But anyway, so if you plant on time for very early spring, I don't see, in our experience, the need for a fall planting. Also, I would do one or the other, right? And it's all about ordering those plugs because you have a minimum box number, right? And if you've never ordered plugs, I just put a filter on myself. Sorry about that, y'all. When you touch the side of the phone, I put sprinkles on me. So when you order plugs, there's a standard box that holds 3 to 4 trays. And for you to order one tray, you still have to pay the shipping for the whole box. So typically most people fill a box up. And so that's why you want to, order the maximum. And it's just kind of makes better sense for us to only place one order a year in our current situation because we're not in production anymore, right? So you have to think about all of that. So let's see. Where do you purchase seeds from? Well, we buy seeds from all over. We buy seeds from big distributors and from, we've had custom seed grown. And so that's kind of where we get our seed from. So I don't have any other questions, y'all. The holiday time is not, people are not real hot and heavy right now thinking about farming and gardening, but let me just refresh your memory that the minute that the holidays are past, we're fresh into seed starting. And speaking of that, I have it laying right here. So this is some dried eucalyptus. Eucalyptus, along with our very early spring plantings of cool flowers, that's what I'm doing the first week in January is starting those seeds. It catches people off guard. They don't have their seeds or they don't have their supplies. And then that starts the whole vicious cycle that then they order. And that's the January, February, and March are the biggest months for retailers selling gardening and farming stuff. I mean, that's the time when it's just crazy busy, which means your orders will be delayed because there's so many of them. But people that haven't ordered on time, it perpetuates your problem. You order the seed, but it doesn't come for 2 to 3 weeks because of the backup, because of so many orders. And that means you're starting it late, which means you're going to be planting it late. And it just starts the whole vicious cycle. I'm telling you, friends, better hop to it. If you need seeds, tools, supplies, soil, whatever it is, you should jump on it. We just, we all tend to crave wanting to start seeds in January. Unfortunately, for many years, most of us just are starting our warm season stuff way too early. But the cool flowers, cool season hardy annuals, and if you haven't checked it out, my new book, The Cut Flower Handbook, has 41 cool season hardy annuals, better known as cool flowers, as well as 25 warm season. And in addition to featuring those flowers with how to start it from seed, shows what a seedling looks like, where you should make the cut, when you should make the cut, growing tips, and my favorite varieties are in there. But put all that aside, and you that it tells you how to grow a cutting garden, and it helps you to figure out when you should plant warm season and cool season annuals in your garden. That's the ticket, y'all. When you figure out your planting windows for those two families of annuals, you can rule the world. And so, Bo, that's a really big piece of growing flowers, you know? If you plant them at the right time, you need really, really less intervention from you. So let's get growing. Do you have any advice for forcing pre-chilled tulips? I do not. I don't grow tulips. And if you've ordered pre-chilled tulips, so you should definitely listen to, there's a podcast that Dave Dowling did with Jenny Love on the No-Till Flower podcast. It's probably a year or two ago, but she doesn't do regular podcast episodes, so you can probably scroll back. You have to, if you're trying to grow tulips, you have to listen to that podcast. It'll change your world. So that's the No-Till Flowers podcast with Jenny Love. And if you're looking for the episode with Dave Dowling and them talking about tulips. And I mean, Dave is brilliant, and Jenny's grown a lot of tulips. So the two of them together is like the tulip marriage made in heaven. So check that out. What are some flowers you have in your permanent perennial beds? This may be surprising. I don't really grow perennials. I'm a small farmer. I'm in the middle of the city. Our whole property is only 2 3/4 acres. And the largest garden I ever had was 1.5 acres. And what I learned early on, funny, I just did an interview yesterday about this, that what I figured out when I was first starting out and I started planting perennials and planting a little bit of everything, right, which is what we all tend to do, which is not such a smart thing, I figured out. All of a sudden, I was running out of space. You know, there's just, because perennials, when you plant them, they only typically bloom for 2 to 3 weeks a year. But they take up permanent residence, which means they have to be weeded constantly, fed, lifted, split to keep them healthy and producing. So other than a patch of peonies, which were gifted, which were family peonies, I don't really grow perennials. And it's not that there's anything wrong with perennials. They are just not what most people think. The people think plant them once, you know, is what they're thinking. But I'm here to tell you, you can make more money per square foot growing annuals and succession planting, and it gives you more diversity, more quantity and quality, and there's just a whole lot of good reasons. So we do not grow perennials typically. Oh, that's right, Jesse. Thank you. No Ask a Flower Farmer for the next 2 weeks. So it's Christmas Day and then New Year's Day. So the next Ask a Flower Farmer will be on January 8th. So thank you so much, Jesse, for reminding me of that. Because I had actually looked on my calendar yesterday and totally forgot it. So we're coasting through the next 2 weeks. And so I appreciate that so very, very much. And Heaven Sent, so let's see what this says. Just a quick plug for your Cool Flower course. Such a great resource for new farmers. So first off, so I'm glad you said that. You can comment, I think you can comment cool here, and we'll DM you the link to it. This is a course that I have a co-host, Lane Angelo, who's the co-host with Seed Talk, was the brainchild behind Cool Flower. She's the one that came up with the concept, and then she and I did it together. And it's like 35 different cool flowers. It's video demonstrations in the garden, when to cut, make the cut, seed starting. it is a fabulous course. Thank you so much for saying that. Any flower farmer definitely should have that course. Cool flowers blooms in the spring, the highest demand season of the year. And you can only get better with each passing year. And that course is a huge stepping stone for you to actually do that. So you can comment cool here, and we'll DM the list, or you can just find it over at thegardenersworkshop.com. I also want to announce that we just launched a couple of things this week. One of them is my club membership, the Flower Farmer Club, now has annual memberships available. That means when you pay for it for a year, you're actually only paying for 10 months and you get 12 months. And so that's an option that won't be around for long, so be sure to partake on that. And the other thing I wanted to share was what? The show tomorrow. So not tomorrow, Friday. So, every Friday we do a live shopping show, which is where we highlight the harvest in real time, all through the winter, starting in January. We do dried flowers. We show you, the flowers that we grow, and this whole wall are flowers that would have been composted. We learned to dry about 3 years ago, and all of the benefits of doing that. And so then we show them to you so you can see what they look like dried. So this Friday, I am getting you ready for that January kickoff of seed starting. So I'm going to be using all 4 of our different soil blocking tools, the small blocker, the large block, it's a 3/4 inch, the 2-inch blocker, and then the 2 commercial Swift blockers, showing you, talking about the difference, why I choose whichever one, and just getting us ready to roll on that, y'all. What is your advice? What is your advice to plant science student who wants to big farm in the cut flower business? Well, to go, first off, you start super small. You need to work on other flower farms. If you really want to make flower farming your career, science student or not, we have several, peers that this is their livelihood. It's very possible, but the quickest road to really learn is to work on other flower farms, probably for 2 to 5 years, move around different areas, see what the situations are and how they do things, and get educated. Join the ASCFG, which is an education organization, the Association of Specialty Cut Flowers. And a great place to start is with my book, The Cut Flower Handbook. It really has the foundation of how a cutting garden works, and then it can be built on from there. So thanks for asking. And let's see, I think there's one. So here's a good one. What is the best way to keep gnats under control? So I will assume that you're speaking of fungus gnats, which are a reality when you're starting seeds indoors. Fungus gnats are those little gnats that fly around. Sometimes you get fruit. It's kind of in the same family with fruit gnats. But whenever you starting seeds indoors and you have moist soil, they become present. So we have actually on our website and on our phone app, Garden Shop, we have fungus gnat fighting kits. We have the stuff you put in your water to water with once a week. And then we have the sticky traps that you trap the adults with. And you can find, they're available separate, but everything you need is over at thegardenersworkshop.com. And you can just search fungus gnats and it will come up. But yeah, prevention is the method. We start as soon as we fire that grow room up in January. Every Wednesday, my watering can has fungus gnat stuff in it to kill any developing larvae in the soil. So you never have to deal with an outbreak because it is not good. It is not good at all. It's very annoying. So friends, I just want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And you'll be seeing me in and out of here. There just won't be an Ask a Flower Farmer for the next 2 weeks. But we'll be back in January. And friends, if you're in my club and even my students, I'm in the midst of boot camp with my flower farming school students. I've encouraged them, and in my club, I actually have a challenge going on to deep dive on a resource, whether that's a book or a course that you have. Commit to one resource and complete it, finish it. And that's what I'm doing with my flower farming school students. And so there's just so much worth in reading for 30 minutes before you go to bed and listening to education when you're driving down the road instead of just listening to music. You know, when you're in business, things are different, y'all. And it'll help you so much. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And I will see you hopefully on Friday as we all get excited about seed starting. All right, friends. Ciao.